Hi Tessa. So good job on that practice test. Let's go over the 3 problems you missed. So here was the first one. So 2x over x plus 4 plus 8 over x equals 32 over x squared plus 4x. So the first thing we need to do is find the least common multiple of all 3 denominators. So first thing I want to look at is this denominator and see how we can factor it. So both terms have an x in it. This x squared obviously has an x and the 4x. So this factors, we can pull out an x as x times x plus 4. So notice our LCM, well, we know we need an x plus 4, and that will take care of that x plus 4 and this one. And we need an x. So our LCM is going to be x plus 4 times x. So we want to multiply all 3 terms by x plus 4 times x and cancel out whatever we can. So our first term, we have 2x over x plus 4. Let me write it out with a little bit of space here. And let me show you, maybe using a different color pen will help a little bit. Here in red, I'm going to put what we're multiplying. So we're multiplying each term by x plus 4 times x. Okay, so notice here, notice here the x plus 4's cancel out. So we're going to have this x times 2x. Plus next, here the x's cancel out, so we have x plus 4 times 8. And on the right-hand side of our equation, the x plus 4's cancel out and the x's cancel out, so we have 32. Okay, so from here, we're going to multiply and then solve for x. So x times 2x is 2x squared. Plus here we need to distribute this 8, so 8x plus 32 equals 32. Now to get the right hand side equal to 0, I'm going to subtract 32 from both sides. And notice on the right hand side this actually cancels out. And on this side it's 0. So we have 2x squared plus 8x equals 0. Now both of those terms have an x in it, so we can pull out an x. So we'll have x, we can actually pull out a 2x, and we'll have x plus 4. So we'll set each of these equal to 0. 2x equals 0, which if we divide both sides by 2, we get x equals 0. And here we would get x plus 4 equals 0, which if we subtract 4 from both sides, we get x equals negative 4. Now, we need to check to make sure that those work in our original equation. But notice, if we check, get a different color pen. Oh, sorry. Go back to black. So let's say we want to check 0. We'd have 2 times 0 over 0 plus 4. We're plugging it in everywhere there's an x. Over plus 8 over 0 equals 32 over 0 squared plus 4 times 0. Now right here, and actually right here, we run into a big problem. We'd be dividing by 0, which is undefined. So 0 cannot be a solution. This is undefined. So that gets rid of 0. Now we need to check negative 4. So if we have 2 times negative 4 over negative 4 plus 4 plus 8 over negative 4 equals 32 over negative 4 squared plus 4 times negative 4. And here again, this denominator, negative 4 plus 4, is going to be 0. So again, we're dividing by 0, and this one's also undefined. So negative 4 doesn't work either, and here, since neither of them work, we would say no solution. Okay, so that's the first problem. Okay, so now we're going to work on this next one. And the next two actually are very, very similar. So we want to know, when is 3 over x squared minus 5x plus 6 less than or equal to 11 over x squared minus 9? Now the first thing we need to do is we need to get everything on one side so that it's less than or greater than 0. And then we're going to make it so that it's one fraction. So I'm going to subtract 11 over x squared minus 9 from both sides. So that gives us 3 over x squared minus 5x plus 6 minus 11 over x squared minus 9, and that'll be less than or equal to 0. Okay, the next thing we need to do is combine our fractions so that we just have one rational function, expression. So we're going to need to make a common denominator. And to do that, I first want to factor both of our denominators. So x squared minus 5x plus 6 factors as x minus 2 and x minus 3. Minus 11 over x squared minus 9 is a difference of squares. So it factors as x minus 3, x plus 3. Okay, so our LCM, very similar to what we did on the last problem. We need an x minus 2, an x minus 3. So that covers that one, that one. We have an x minus 3, so now we need this one, the x plus 3. So our common denominator, our one denominator, is going to be x minus 2, x minus 3, and x plus 3. Now, this fraction right here, notice in the denominator up here, we don't have an x plus 3. So we're going to have 3 times x plus 3. Minus this fraction, we don't have the x minus 2. So it'll be 11 times x minus 2. Less than or equal to 0. So now we need to do a little bit of work with the numerator. We're going to distribute that 3. So we'll have 3x plus 9. We'll distribute the 11 minus 11x plus 22 all over x minus 2, x minus 3, x plus 3. So combining the like terms, we get negative 8x plus 31 all over x minus 2, x minus 3, x plus 3, less than or equal to 0. So now we're going to make our sign chart. And on the sign chart, we need to put any values that make the numerator, the top, or the denominator equal to 0. Okay, so, and it's going to be what helps us decide our answer. So we make a number line, okay. Now, to set the top equal to 0, if we set negative 8x plus 31 equal to 0, we'd subtract 31, so negative 8x equals negative 31. We would divide both sides by negative 8, so x would be 31 over 8. The negatives would cancel out. So we're going to put 31 over 8 on there, which is just about 4, but not quite. Then we're going to put x minus, so we're going to look at the bottom now. X minus 2 gives us a 0 of 2. X minus 3 gives us a 0 of 3. And x plus 3 gives us a 0 of negative 3. So now we're going to use our calculator, and bear with me as I try to get this so I can get this on the screen and a calculator on the screen. Pretty cool, huh? Bring the calculator up. Okay. Oh, sorry, I'm not showing my sign diagram. Okay, I think we have everything we need here. So, in my y equals, I want to put this. Okay, now, let me show you where we need to make sure we have parentheses around the numerator and the denominator. So, we want to make sure we add those red parentheses. So here, we're going to have negative 8. Sorry, this doesn't always cooperate so well. X plus plus 31 close the hot parentheses divided by 8. Now start a whole parenthesis for the bottom, then we'll do parenthesis x minus 2 parenthesis new one x minus 3, close that one, and then x plus 3, close, okay? And I know that seems like a lot of parentheses, but all of them are necessary. Now, especially since some of these numbers are very close together, I'm going to recommend that we go to second in the window button, and on table set, we put this on ask. Okay, then we're going to go to our table. Okay, we want to look at some number for this interval that's less than negative 3. So I'm going to put in negative 4. You could do any number less than negative 3. And hit enter. And all we care about is this a positive or a negative number. We get negative 1.5, so that's a negative number. Okay, then we want any number between negative 3 and 2. So for example, 0 would work. And that's a positive number. Then we want something between 2 and 3. And this is why I put it on ask, because now we can do something like 2.5. Okay, that's negative. Now, one thing we kind of forgot to do, we should figure out what the decimal for 31 over 8 is. So that's 3.875. So we need something between 3 and 3.875. So for example, we could do 3.5. So that's positive. And then we need a number bigger than 31 over 8. So we could use 4. And that one's negative. Okay. Now, we need to look back at our inequality, and we wanted ones that were less than or equal to 0. So that means we're going to use the less than, tells us we're going to use the negative signs. Now, the equal to part, remember, normally would mean we use brackets, but for these rational inequalities, we have to be very, very careful. We can only use a bracket for what made the top 0, and here that was the 31 over 8. So our solution here, so we want the negatives, so we want this interval, which would be negative infinity to negative 3. Now, since the negative 3 came from the bottom, we have to use a parenthesis there. Union 2 to 3. Both of those, again, were from the bottom, so we have to use parentheses. And then, since we want 31 over 8 to infinity, since that one came from the top, we can use bracket 31 over 8 to infinity. Okay, so that's how we do that one. Okay, we've got one more here, and this will be very similar. So we've got 3 over x squared minus 4x plus 3 is less than or equal to 5 over x squared minus 9. So first I'm going to subtract the 5 over x squared minus 9 from both sides. So that'll give me 3 over x squared minus 4x plus 3 minus 5 over x squared minus 9 is less than or equal to 0. Next I'm going to factor both the denominators, so this will be x minus 3 x minus 1 minus 5 over x minus 3 x plus 3. Okay, so our LCM, I'm going to need an x minus 3, an x minus 1, and then an x plus 3. So that's what our common denominator is going to be. That common denominator will be your LCM. So this fraction, we don't have an x plus 3, we have the other two, so we have to multiply the 3 by the x plus 3. And this one, we don't have the x minus 1, so we'll have 5 times x minus 1. Okay, so we're going to distribute the 3, so 3x plus 9, and distribute the minus 5, so minus 5x plus 5. And combine like terms, so we get negative 2x plus 14. So this should kind of be looking really familiar because it's really the same steps. Okay, so remember now we're going to make our sign diagram. We got to put what makes the top 0 and what makes the bottom 0. So if we look at the top, if we set negative 2x plus 14 equal to 0, we're going to get negative 2x equals negative 14. Divide both sides by negative 2. We get x equals 7, so we're going to put 7 on here. Okay, then we're going to put 3 and 1 and negative 3. Okay, now we need to put our equation in our y equals. Remember, we put parentheses around the numerator and all the way around the denominator. Oops. Okay, now we're going to go to our table and test things. So we want to test something less than negative 3. So I already happen to have negative 4 in there. So that's negative. Then I want something between negative 3 and 1, so 0 will work, which is already in there. The values we had in for the last one just happen to work, and it automatically updates the y value, so we don't have to worry about that. Between 1 and 3, the 2.5 will work, that's negative. Between 3 and 7, the 3.5 will work, which is positive. And then we need something bigger than 7, so we will have to put something in. Let's test 8. Okay, and that comes out negative. Okay, this is another one that's less than or equal to 0, so we want the negatives. And since it has that equal to part, we'll put a bracket with what made the top 0, and that was the 7. So our solution will be negative infinity to negative 3, union 1 to 3, union bracket 7 to infinity. Okay? And one thing, I think this was a problem that asked for the critical values, and those are just the numbers that you put on your sign diagram. Okay, so let me know if any of this brought up more questions.